So I still got the sensor on the back, but we're now gonna mount it on the roof so that we can do the first blossom scans. It's really about time to scan the pear trees as they are in full bloom at this moment, and I don't want to scan them any later than full bloom because the leaves will start falling. So we'll have to hurry. So let's detach it and put it on the roof, and then we scan the conference pears so that we at least get a map of the blossom. We are not going to spray at this moment on that map because there's nothing I can do for the blossom on the conference, but it is very interesting to know how they flowered later in the season when we know how much pears there are hanging on every spot. So let's get this up on the cab. Alright, so now we're gonna scan for blossom. So I had to measure in the GPS antenna again. So at this moment the GPS antenna is located on the back of the cab while the Treescout is in front. So I had to measure the distance to the back of the Treescout, the hard offset because my antenna is mounted on the side of the cab, and the height of the top camera. So I measured that all in and it's entered exactly as it should be. So now let's head into the field and see if this is gonna work. I do have my exhaust sitting there, and the manuals of Aurea clearly state that you should not have an exhaust there. So we have to try if this is gonna work or not. Let's find that one out. Same goes for the mirrors. I think I need to fold the mirrors away as well. So now we should be ready to go into the field and scan these pear trees. And while scanning blossom, I understood that we can drive up to 8 kilometers per hour. So we are gonna do 7 to make sure that we get good images, but it will go a lot quicker than measuring tree positions. So let's go for it. Alright, we arrived at the pear field. So we're gonna scan the blossom with the Treescout. So let's get in the tractor and scan this field. We got RTK, so we are ready to go. We also got 4G. Treescout is saying it's ready, so let's press play. System is starting. Let's wait a bit for that. And once it's started, we can start driving.
Dan kun je heel uitgebreid mee naar de Stappers dit weekend. En dan heb je 100 geld over ook. Dus je kan het winnen als je meespeelt dit.
Alright, let's go. that helps a lot. So I taught my girlfriend how to drive the tractor. So now I can walk around and see how everything is doing while she's driving. So that saves me a lot of work. So today we are scanning the Aurea. We got the Freya here, and the Freya seem to be very alternating. It's also because we don't do too much about it, because we still want to learn how the variety is going. But as you can see, some trees have a lot of blossom and some trees just have a very little blossom. And that's because these trees, they produce a lot, and that means next year they got an alternation. And it does seem like we do need to thin them very well to get a even production. So doing it with this tag really seems to make a lot of sense. We are also scanning the word winning today, so I already did that. And as you can see, they have a nice and even bloom this year. But we do know that if we don't thin this well enough, then they will still get an alternating bearing year, and alternation comes in, but they don't seem as sensitive as the Freya or the Ulster to it, because it does seem evenly spread again. Well, 2 years ago we had barely any word winning. Last year it was good but alternating, and this year it seems to be a good blossom. So it seems like this variety stabilizes out on that, and that's a really nice thing to know, as it means we don't need to thin this one too much, because it will even out after 2 years. And that's a nice property of a variety. So by the looks of how the blossom is going here, we probably have to spray this field tomorrow or on Tuesday to get a proper blossom thinning done. So this field is more Aurea, so it's just a small field, but still it's very important that we thin it out correctly. As you can see, some trees still don't have a lot of blossom, while some trees they just have a lot more, like this one. So thinning here on application maps should make a lot of difference. The reason that it varies in this field is because it had water damage in the past, and that makes the trees grow very differently. Even while they were all planted equally, they still got all a very different year at the first years. So every year when we have blossom, we do mow our fields as well, just 1 or 2 days before it's full blossom. And that's just because we have a lot of flowers in the grass, and these flowers, well, they take away the bees from the apples. So if we mow away the flowers 1 or 2 days early, then we don't have flowers at blossom day, and the bees will spend all the time on the apple blossom and not on the grass lanes. So we needed to drive anyway, so now we do it together with the Treescout. That's just everything in one pass that we needed to do before blossom. Alright, so today it's time to scan the Ulster for blossom. As we can see, a lot of blossom has opened already. Not everything, we still got a lot of pink clusters, but that doesn't really matter, as we know the amount of blossom we scan today, it's still going to be a lot more at the day when we spray, but we can already see way too much blossom, so we can still judge for a proper scale of the map to actually thin them out with the application map with the sprayer. So let's go and scan this field so that we can spray it in the upcoming days to make sure that we get a homogeneous yield here. And we do have a lot of alternation here. As you can see, this tree only has 5 clusters, while this tree still has a lot of them closed, but it's going to be probably around 25 clusters, and that would be just perfect. I mean, it's a nice amount of apples to have, and it's going to produce a nice thickness, so we should not touch a tree like this. Same goes for this one, also around 40 clusters. It's perfect. You do not want to touch that one, so the sprayer has to be off at that tree. While looking at a tree like this one, we definitely need to thin this one out, because this one probably has over 100 clusters, so that's way too much apples and way more than the apple tree can bear. Then we know for sure it's not going to produce next year, and we also know that the apples are going to stay small, or we get a lot of hand labor to thin these apples out, and that's just not what we want. So let's go use the Treescout, scan the field, and then we're gonna spray with application maps. Alright, so we're now in the middle field of Ulster, and this is the field where we have the biggest alternation problems, as we have just trees which are nice and full, and we have trees which don't have a lot. Now, we are blossom thinning this for 2 years, and as you can see, we get quite an even fill on this field. If you look how bad it looked before that, well, it's still not perfect, but it's getting way better. I mean, most of the trees now got a lot of flowers. I mean, this one is low on flowers, but if you look at it, it still has flowers, so it's still gonna produce 40, maybe 50 apples if all the blossom gets pollinated. So that's where the task map comes in, to prevent it from being sprayed when we don't want it to be sprayed. And we also still have some trees here and there which don't have blossom at all. I mean, this one is far behind. It's probably a Gold Delicious by the looks of it. And this Ulster tree here is completely empty. But on the other side, everything is full, and I really like that side. It has been so long on this field that we had bad blossoms and bad production, and it really seems to come out of that hole at this moment, as we just see a lot of blossom. There's another trees which are low on blossom, so the data map should prevent them from being sprayed, so that they will still produce the maximum amount of apples, and that way we should get a nice yield this year. And if we look on this side, then we also have a nice and even load. I mean, it's not too much, it just seems nice. So we're at the home Ulster field, and I scanned this field this afternoon, and I got the map in this afternoon as well, and now I got time to check it out because I had to drive some other fields first. But what's interesting is that Aurea actually made a tool, so we can see the application map, or we can see the blossom map. I have to say, this is the blossom map, not the application map, and we can see which tree is having a lot or just a little of blossom. And if we walk here, then we can also see the dot, and the dot is me, but it's not an RTK GPS, and that's because the phone just doesn't have that. So it's not as accurate. That means I do have to search a little bit on where exactly I stand. But we can see there's 2 red trees here, which means it doesn't have a lot of blossom. And we here have a tree with a lot of blossom. This one doesn't have a lot of blossom, not a lot of blossom either. And then we get one with a little bit more blossom again. Now if we keep on walking, then we just can see where we move, how we move over the map, and that gives us a clear insight of what it looks like. And now we have to search some trees which we really like. So where I just really like how the blossom sits, and that's going to be a threshold, because we need to determine how a tree looks like on this map, if it's perfect in our opinion. So we're gonna search one, and I mean these all got too much blossom. I like this one, but it still gets way too much. And if you look on the map, these are also all green. So we just passed these trees and they are all very green, so they have a lot of blossom. So it's not the ideal tree to us. Now we go over there. I do see one over there that looks really nice. So I really like the blossom on this tree, as it's not overloaded. It's just a few blooms everywhere over the tree. So that's a tree that I would just not spray. And it's looking orange on the map. So if you move forward, then this must be your tree. And that one is saying 33. Well, I think that this is the 33. That means this is a 68. So that would make 68 our threshold. This is the 33. I misjudged it because I don't have the RTK GPS on my phone. Now we're gonna look for another one. So if we can find, here's a 79. So I do want to judge the 79. So I do think that this one is the 79, and that must be a Pinova. So I don't want to look at that. That's not a clear side. So this must be a 76 then. This is just a little bit too much, so we would spray this tree. So I think 68 is a pretty good threshold to set the data map on. So that's how we're gonna create the application map. Use 68 as threshold, so everything above 68 bloom measured by the Treescout is gonna be sprayed. I think that should result in a really nice even yield of the field. And I hope that we don't have to do too much hand thinning after doing so. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe so you get a notification when the next video comes online. And I really like to thank Munkhoff and Aurea Imaging to give me the chance to try out the Treescout, as it's a really big step up when you come from the drone images. So in the past 3 years I made drone maps for the fields and we sprayed according to that. But with the Treescout it's definitely a step up by knowing where the trees are and being way more precise with the blossom counting. I also notice it takes a lot of stress away from getting the correct calibration, as I get the calibration done way easier. So the Treescout is definitely a big help on the farm and I really enjoy working with that one.